If I had to choose, when I leave my house, right? If I had to choose one thing not to go without, right? Let's just say someone said, look, you can only choose one piece of gear. Even though you know I wear all of it anyway. But if someone said you can only have one piece, right? And that's what I have to do. It's going to be my... I've fallen down so hard on some occasions where even with the pads on, it's still, I felt pain. I was like, oh damn, like that was heavy. And I just thought, if I didn't have these on, like imagine what it would have felt like. Super important, guys. Super important. And you'd be surprised just how hard you land on your... Let that be a warning to you guys. Like, you'd be surprised if you don't wear knee. What's up, guys? You will not believe what I'm about to tell you in this video. I'm serious, guys. You're not gonna believe it. It's crazy. Wait up though, we're gonna ride to a spot out there, sit down and talk about it. And about the topic. Today's topic will be, what's the most important piece of gear? You know I wear almost every piece of gear, head to toe. And I'm gonna talk about what's the most important piece of gear, but I'm also gonna drop a bomb. When I get there, I'll tell you, like, before we start the topic, I'll tell you what happened. It's freaking crazy. You won't even believe it when I tell you. But I've got proof. I've got a video of the whole thing, and the next video will be that. But now I'll just tell you what it was, right? You won't believe it, and then I'll show the video, and then you're gonna have to believe it. So let's head out. And just got my one glove to put on. Then chuck my bag on, and then we can cruise. Actually, I got my orange juice too. Guys, I want to give a big shout out to Lewis Wirt for the donation he gave me. It was specifically for buying carrot juices. I'm gonna have carrot juices for the whole week at least. So thanks a lot, Lewis. That's a massive help. And also MeUC on my EUC, he had put a donation in and I didn't realize it was him because it came in under a different name. So big shout out to MeUC on my EUC. And I'll give another shout out to Echo, James Mucklin and Sanic. Alright guys, let's head out. So, get my helmet on. And this put the pedals down too. I reckon this will do it. All right, we can begin. Oh, yeah. You will not believe this. You won't believe what I'm about to tell you. I was in the park on a wheel, balancing, all right, at 0 miles per hour. I was just stalled. And just prior to that, I was going about 5 miles per hour under my own power. I was carving and kicking. No motor connected whatsoever. No power, no propulsion. In the park, all right? In the park. And now I'm about to tell you what happened. This friggin' cop drives into the park, right? He saw me not even moving on this thing. He saw me just balancing on one leg, just standing still. That's all he saw. He might have seen the carving at 5 miles an hour too, if he was watching earlier, right? Guess what he said to me? He said next time he catches me on this thing, and he gave me a fine. So for starters, I got a $2,000 fine, right? $2,000. I just got a fine 2 weeks ago that was like $400, remember that? Now I got another $2,000 to pay. I'm only eating 1 meal a day, by the way, guys. And I can barely afford that. Since I got my... That wasn't my first fine, by the way. I had another one way back that was also... It was $1,800. So I'm nearly up to $5,000 in fines now. And guess what he said, though? He said, next time he catches me, I'm going to be under arrest and I'm going to spend time in jail. He said that. I'm going to jail. Next time I get caught balancing at 0 miles per hour without a motor, right? No motor. No motor needed. He said, I'm going to jail and he's going to seize my wheel. He's going to steal it. He's going to claim ownership of it. I don't know what that means. Does that mean like I can never get it back? So I'm no longer the owner? So it goes on to a new owner? Is that how it works? I don't know, guys. I don't know how it works when you steal people's property like that. But that's what he said. He's going to throw me in jail and take my wheel. Right? And guess what else he said? He said I got to walk home, right? He said you got to walk from here, and if you want to ride a rideable, you have to get one of those things off the street, out of the gutter. He said that. It's all on the footage, all right? So I picked one of these scooters up, the brakes didn't work, and I fell down. I had a bad accident, and I hurt my leg again. I'm going to sue him. I'm going to sue this cop at a personal level. And I had to walk 10 miles on a bad leg, right? I just did that not long ago. It's still healing. Like, that was a blunt force impact. It still hurts. I nearly broke my friggin' bone. I'm surprised I didn't break anything because this piece of metal just slammed into it. You know, it was bad. And I had to walk 10 miles, right? With a heavy ass wheel, under duress, under threat of jail time. So I'm gonna try and sue the shit out of this guy. And just so you know, I've been stopped by lots of cops while riding with a motor, and they've all been fine with it, except for a couple that gave me some small fine. I mean, I had a pretty big fine still, and then a really big fine. But aside from that, they've all been all right with it. This one cop is making threats of jail. Like, I don't know if it's even legal. Even if I was running on a motor, Can you put someone in jail for riding a freaking scooter? I don't even know if that's like, that's got to be against the law, right? I don't know. But anyway, that's going to be in the next video. You're going to see the whole thing. You'll see him arriving in the middle of a park, just like I am now, right? In a park, in his cop car, right? Angry as can be, like furious. He just pulled out a rush hour too. It was rush hour. He was like in a queue of cars. Maybe he was so bored in that queue. He was like, oh yeah, look what I can do now. I can go fuck with someone. And that's what they do. These people are clinically insane. Anyone that has the desire to do that to someone else is insane. That's the same kind of person. Like, if he got the order to go and take someone's kids away for some stupid reason, like, it could be anything. You don't even have to give him a good reason. A piece of shit like that is going to do it. Doesn't matter why. Maybe they said something against a particular medicine. I don't know. And then this cop is going to go take your kids away. That's the type of people that do this, guys. They're a danger to society. And we got to do something about this. We can't have this piece of human garbage running around with a gun and a car that he can drive into parks, you know, and go and harass people for nothing. Make threats of jail time. I mean, it's freaking insanity. But anyway, let's talk about the topic. And I've got the carrot juice. I got the carrot juice. Cheers, guys. Oh, that's good. Cheers, Lewis. This one's on Lewis, guys. This one and the next 7 videos, these are going to be on Lewis. Doesn't matter where you get it from. Like, I'm on the other side of the city now. Normally I buy these at the beach. I'm super far from the beach right now. Did you hear my voice just then? Really far. And I bought this somewhere else. It tastes exactly the same. It's delicious. It's like a Big Mac. They always taste the same. Like shit in that case, but... And right here, I'm thinking, I wonder if I've got my McShit shirt on because of what I was just talking about. I thought it was kind of funny. And I didn't have it on, unfortunately. But a lot of you guys have seen that shirt, or it's a jumper, sweater. Alright, so I'm gonna switch to 30 frames per second. Alrighty, so let's talk about the topic then, guys. Sorry about this camera angle. I've got like, I don't have a good place to sit, you know, I'm just like on a slope, sitting on the dirt. Maybe I'll sit front on. Alright, so what is the most important piece of gear when riding an EUC? Well, as you know, I wear pretty much all the gear all the time. ATGAT. That's what they call it. I'm an ATGATer, and it doesn't really matter whether... Now, what I'm saying is... Alright, this is what I'm saying. I wear the helmet. I normally wear this, right? Unless it's summer, like really hot during the summer, then I won't wear this. I'll wear just like a t-shirt with elbow pads. You know, I'll put elbow pads on, just like some rollerblading ones or whatever. But this jacket has built-in elbow pads and it's got a built-in back protector. I don't really care much for the back protector, but it's got it there, so whatever. But when I don't wear this jacket, I don't put on like a back protector. But anyway, so I've got back protection when I wear that. I've got elbow pads. I wear gloves with built-in wrist protection. These are special gloves made for EUC riders. They're made by EUC riders too. The company is called Gyro Riders, see? And these are excellent, guys. These, I can't recommend these enough. You won't find anything like this in a motorbike shop. They're basically motorbike quality gloves with built-in wrist guards. It's pretty cool. And wrist guards are some of the most important pieces of gear you can have. I believe, at least on an electric skateboard they are. I rode an electric skateboard for a couple of years and I didn't wear any protection at all. I was one of those guys that wore no protection, no helmet, nothing. Just a pair of shorts and a t-shirt and the remote. And every time I had an accident, I would hurt my wrist. I never broke it, but I landed on it enough times that it gradually became a problem. Like I noticed I had pain in my wrist and then I fell on it again and then the pain got worse, then again and again. And it just like, I ended up with like a long-term wrist problem, right? And it took years for it to start feeling better just because of the repeated injuries on the same spot, you know? And then I said, nah, this is ridiculous. I have to wear wrist guards. Ever since then, my wrists just had no injuries at all. Like the wrist guards protect them 100%. You know, it's like the problem doesn't exist. And when I moved on to the EUC, I thought, well, I better keep the wrist guards, you know? Although what I've found is I've never really needed them. I noticed that I don't really fall in that same way. I think it's because of the sideways stance. When you're standing side on, it's like you're guaranteed to put one arm out like this and then you just land on your wrist, you know? When you're standing front on, you've got your legs to help you out more during the fall. So you kind of either hit the ground running and run it off, or you hit the ground rolling. Or you hit the ground with a couple of steps and then you roll, instead of just going down onto your wrist, you know? I think that's what happens with the one wheel as well, because you're side on. As soon as you have a, like they call it a nosedive, when the front touches the ground, or you just have a cutout, then you just, the way, it's just so much more dangerous. Like you hear about the accidents they have and they're only going like 15 miles an hour and they're all breaking like all their bones. Whereas us EUC riders, you rarely hear of like a broken bone. I guess a lot of us wear a lot of gear, so maybe that's it too. But what I'm trying to say is that I haven't found the wrist guards to be so important on the EUC as they were on the E-Skate. And I still wear them though, regardless. Because they're here, you know. If I want to wear gloves, and let me tell you about these gloves. I reckon these saved one of my fingers, guys. See that? Can you see? I don't know if you can tell, but these gloves have armor on the fingers. And it's like, I had an accident where this thing sliced right through the armor. I don't know if you can see that. But it's like, I'll tell you what happened. I was holding a flashlight. Basically this one here, I'll grab it. See this? It's got like sharp edges, right? And I had an accident while holding it. And I didn't let go of it. And I just landed straight, like all the force, like with all my body weight. I went down on my fist, basically. I basically punched the cement while holding this thing. And it just busted through the armor of these gloves. And it even caused a laceration on my finger, like a bad one. It cut it deep. I thought I did nerve damage because it was all numb for like days. And if I didn't have these gloves on, oh mate, I reckon I would have lost a finger. I don't even want to think about it. Like, But that's the lesson learned, is that this torch was the dangerous thing. Just holding this, because, you know, it's like a knife there, you know, it's just sharp as hell. So yeah, if I'm ever going to be holding this thing, I'll make sure I've got these gloves on, or I'll just try and drop it before I fall. I kind of tried to save it, you know, rather than saving myself. I tried to save the flashlight. But yeah, that can be important. Even if you're not holding a flashlight like this, it's kind of not super important. But if you land on your hands, you know, you can do a lot of like kind of road rash on your fingers, on your palms. And it's nice to have gloves on, although I don't think they're super important, because in the summer these are very hot. You know, it's better to just wear regular wrist guards that where your fingers are like, you know, just exposed to the air. And when you do have an accident, even without your fingers protected, this thing, like the wrist guard, will like, it lets you slide along the ground, you know? Instead of your fingers sliding along the ground, this thing will slide and it will take all the abrasion. So yeah, gloves aren't super important. It was just when I was holding that freaking torch. And guys, just to let you know, I'm going to do a proper video one day, probably not, you know, probably in a month or so, called The Ultimate Guide to Gear. And I'll show you all the gear I've bought over the years, because I've kind of converged towards the optimum set of gear. You know, I started off with some other stuff. I didn't quite like it. Then I found some better stuff. Then found some flaws with that. And then slowly I ended up with like the optimum, the ideal. And yeah, I'll do that video as soon as I can. Just to let you know, this isn't going to be like the, you know, the be all end all of gear. But let's continue. So yeah, gloves. And then, well, the next thing down is shin guards, or no, knee guards and shin guards, or just knee guards. Some people wear just the knee, and some people have the shin part as well. This is, you know, it's all one piece in this case. If you're gonna have shin pads, you may as well get it all in one piece. You don't want to put on separate, you know, like a soccer player. And what do I think is the most important thing? And then there's shoes, right? These kind of, they provide protection. You know, if you wear, like if you had bare feet, then your feet would be like pretty exposed, right? These shoes, they do a fair bit to protect your feet from abrasions and all that, but they're not armored in my case. And some of you will remember I did a video on that where I tried some armored shoes from the motorcycle shop, and I didn't like them because they were, well, there's many reasons. They were too stiff though, that was the main thing, and too thick. It was hard to feel the road. I didn't feel right in them, but I only went for 20 kilometers in them. Maybe if I had tried, you know, riding for a week, it would eventually feel okay. And I might give it a go one day again. But as for now, I just wear regular sneakers. You know, just like tennis shoes. So they don't provide any protection against impacts. And I'll show you a couple of impacts I've had. This one was like, that happened a long time ago, and there's a lifelong scar, as you can see. That was very deep. That was a blunt force impact from the Sherman, and it cut it like, it was huge. It looked like I got bitten by a shark or something. And I'm surprised I didn't break anything, because it was just, it was like a sledgehammer. Like, it felt like my foot became jelly. The moment it struck, it was just like, what the hell was that? And then it happened again on my other foot. Look. Oh, just here. So you can see that wasn't as bad that time. That one was like half as bad, although it still had a very deep cut. This is 2 weeks old, by the way. This wound here is 2 weeks old, and just there was a very deep cut still, but just not as big as the other one, because it was a blunt force impact again. So yeah, armor would be great to have, you know, on your feet, just to prevent that from happening. But if you want to go watch that video called, you know, foot protection, something like that, foot protection. And yeah, basically my conclusion was that it's not worth wearing armored shoes because it feels so weird that I didn't feel safe with them, because I didn't feel like I was riding properly. You know, I felt like I could fall off at any second just because I couldn't feel the road. So I figured I'm taking more of a risk wearing these armored shoes because there's not much chance of hitting your feet with the EUC. It's like a rare occurrence because the EUC has to, you know, you have to fall off the front, hit the ground running, and the EUC then has to strike your foot. So it has to either maintain balance and keep going straight, or just tumble in a way that it reaches you, which is very unlikely. And when I did the bad one, like on my left foot, you know, the big scar, that was a tumbling incident where the Sherman was tumbling and it just smacked down on my foot like a sledgehammer. The other one, it maintained balance and kept going straight. So there wasn't as much of a, you know, rotational velocity. So that's why it wasn't as bad. But that's that. And I still haven't gotten to the point though. What's the most important piece of gear? You're looking at it. It's right here, guys. It's your knee pads. Why do I say that? Why isn't it the helmet? Right? This thing could keep you alive. You know, this protects your brain, your face, your teeth, your nose, your eyes, your ears. Why would I be saying this is the most important? Well, let me tell you one thing first. If I had to choose, when I leave my house, right? If I had to choose one thing not to go without, right? Let's just say someone said, look, you can only choose one piece of gear. Even though you know I wear all of it anyway. But if someone said you can only have one piece, right? And that's what I have to do. It's going to be my knee pads every day of the week without fail. No way would I choose my helmet. No way. Why? Well, when you look at any risk analysis, you've got to look at two things: consequence and probability of incident. Consequence is the reason why you'd say, yeah, the helmet's the most important thing, because the consequence of hitting your head is much worse than hitting your knee, isn't it? You could kill yourself or, you know, have permanent brain damage. And if you hit your knee, you might just affect your ability to walk. So the consequence is far greater when hitting your head. But what about the probability? It's about 1,000 times greater on your knees. More, I would say. In all the years I've been riding electric skateboards, electric scooters, and unicycles, I have never needed my helmet. Not once. Not one single time out of all the falls I've had, I've never needed my helmet. It's like the probability is so small compared to hitting your knees. It's crazy. Like the chance of hitting your knees is extremely high. It's almost guaranteed. When you fall off your EUC, that's the closest thing to the ground. And it's the thing your instinct causes you to protect your head to extreme levels. Like you won't even notice what's happening, but when you're in the middle of falling, you're basically, your neck is doing all kinds of motions just to keep your head as safe as possible, you know? And it's natural instinct. Whereas your knees, there's no natural instinct to protect those, and they're gonna take the brunt basically every time. And your hands and your knees. That's why I say these are number one, and number two are wrist guards, guys. And that's my own experience. Like I said, if someone said you've got to choose one piece of gear, or say two pieces of gear, it's going to be my knee pads and my wrist guards. Every day of the week, it doesn't matter how fast I'm going or what kind of ride I'm doing. You might have noticed when I do my drifting sessions, I never wear a helmet. If you go look at all Maybe sometimes I might have by accident, but normally I'll take it off because it like interrupts your ability to see. I mean, not in front of you, but just below you, right? Because when you do a drift, it's nice to be able to see the wheel, like the angle of the wheel and stuff. And when you've got that helmet on, the full face, you got to look down to look at the wheel, which like it distracts you. You know, it's just kind of an obstacle. It impedes your vision. That's what I'm trying to say. And I've found it's much easier with the helmet off, and I've never needed it. Every time I've fallen while drifting, it's always my knees and it's always my hands. But having said that, I still wear this every time, don't I? Except for those drifting sessions. Whenever I'm riding around, this is always on my head. Because I still, you know, I think it's still important, but just not as important, guys. And I know some of you are going to disagree. I know many people out there don't even wear knee pads and they always wear a helmet. To me, that just doesn't make sense. Like I said, the chance of hitting your knee is like 1,000 times greater. And it's still a pretty big consequence. If you smash your knees on the road really hard, it could put you out of riding. You might never ride again if it's bad enough. I'm sure these have saved me, guys. I've fallen down so hard on some occasions where even with the pads on, I felt pain. I was like, oh damn, like that was heavy. And I just thought, if I didn't have these on, like imagine what it would have felt like. Super important, guys. Super, super important. And you'd be surprised just how hard you land on your knees sometimes. Like, not always, but sometimes. I don't know how it happens. It's like just something to do with the physics of these things. Like you feel like, oh yeah, I'm only falling from this high, but just the way you fall, it just slams, like it's just crazy. It just multiplies the force somehow. It feels like it's not even real, you know? Let that be a warning to you guys. Like, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. If you don't wear knee pads, one day you might just need them. Get it? Do you see the pun there? But yeah, that's it, guys. That's the video. And don't forget to watch my next one, guys. It's gonna be about this cop in the park. And we gotta do something. We gotta get together and sue the shit out of this guy. Partly for well, he made me ride this broken scooter, didn't he? It's on the video too. He says he's going to throw me in jail if I don't do what he says. And then he points at these scooters and says, you have to ride those things. Things that aren't maintained, don't have any brakes. I don't even know how to ride them properly. Right? I've never ridden those exact scooters before, for all he knows. And then he's saying, yeah, just ride those things. You can go on the road and everything. And walk home 10 miles. With my walking aid. Right? I was with my walking aid, which is my wheel. And he made me walk with it. Right? He made me walk carrying this thing that should be helping me walk. He made me walk with it. Like a burden. Like a monkey on my back. So I don't know, I don't know how successful we'll be, but I'm going to speak to some lawyers on Monday, which is tomorrow, and see what we can do. And there's the IP situation, right? Because he's talking about seizing my property, right? Little does he know, I've been working on some algorithms for the last 5 years, basically full time, And that intellectual property is attached to my wheel. I have circuits embedded in there that contain all the work I've been doing. I'm a mechanical engineer, by the way, qualified with first class honors from Adelaide University. And he thinks he can just take that just like that because he don't like no scooter in the park. Scooter in the park.